for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin tonight, I just want to reiterate what I said at the vigil, a little bit of what I said in brief about the horrific acts that have been, or act that has really taken the town and been everywhere, obviously. The racial graffiti and coinciding or incident activities as well that have been reported, as the vigil showed, got a great and powerful and encouraging response from the community, and I thank everybody who participated. Many people from this room were there, as well as other officials and townspeople, so thank you. The investigation from the police department is continuing, as is their cooperation with federal and county authorities. There is nothing right now for anybody to report, and the school investigation into those allegations from previous games is also still underway, and I don't speak for the school department, but from my standpoint, there's nothing to report that I have heard, as this being a selectmen meeting. I hope and pray that we can find the person or people who did this, obviously, and bring them to justice. I think everybody is hoping and wishing for that. And that is a second-prong approach to this act. Hopefully we can recommit ourselves to the principles that I believe are the core values of the school and the community at large, the principles of inclusion, of mutual respect, of tolerance and diversity. I know the school has made a commitment to reevaluate and reassert themselves in those programs for anti-bullying and other programs and diversity at the school. I think we as townspeople should do it on our own in our families, in our communities, and our neighborhoods. And hopefully together, we can at least begin to start the healing process with the student and the family who this was directed against, and then the large wound that I think has opened up in large parts of our community. So that is where we are now. We continue to ask that if anybody has any information, that they contact the police department, and you can request anonymity if you so desire. So we hope people will take, anybody who has any knowledge of this takes us up on that, and I know they are waiting to take your calls. That is a brief statement I wanted to start with. I would ask the board if they have any public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I would support all the things that you stated and look forward to the speedy resolution of this investigation so that the town can move ahead to heal and move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I just also echo the sentiments you expressed, and it was heartening to see everyone at the vigil. I think we all need to come together as a community, and I think that we're doing that. We are an inclusive community, and that's what we need to now be, and we need to teach our children. And as Mr. Alonso said, the investigation continues, and I encourage anyone that knows anything about this to come forward. And now we move forward with the healing process. And again, it was heartening to see everyone, and I think we are coming together as a community, and we are a strong, supportive community, and we will continue to be so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I as well like to echo my support to your comments and just state that I'm very proud of this town and this community, and I continue to be so and expect to be so in the future.
Thank you. Any public comment from the public? When you come up, please just state your name and address, and then with your comments.
Good evening. Les Sabadie, 920 Mass Ave, Lunenburg. Again, it's a terrible thing what happened last week, and I keep hearing about the healing process, and we should start with the healing process. I think number one for the healing process for us, for our children, is to reconsider and let us play Thanksgiving game. These kids have worked very hard. They're united. we can't blame the actions of one person on this entire team. I think, you got to take into consideration the players, their families, the band, their families, the cheerleaders, their families. This is, a tradition in our town. We want to play it. We like the support of the town. And, we really want you to please reconsider and let us play.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
In quick response, first, I just want to, only because it's not always clear, the separation of powers and authorities in the town, that the decision to cancel a game really lies with the school committee and the school administration. All right, so that is their decision, and they have an elected board, as we are the elected board, to determine that. So I would ask that you present that case to them, not as a selectman, but as a resident and as an official in town who has no authority in their decision. I would say that, however difficult, I want to publicly say that I support the decision and I understand what your points are. I really do. And it's not, from my standpoint, and I will let them speak for them, but the way I see it, it's not an assessment of blame against the team or any of those other groups, the band or the cheerleaders. That is an unfortunate byproduct. I think it comes down to somewhat, I would imagine, a safety issue, and the issue that we don't want yet another incident happening without the ones that are already before us anywhere near a resolution. And I think that would be the issue that is overlying. I mean, it truly is unfortunate that people who had nothing to do with any of this, and I'm sure they are the vast majority, will pay a price for this. But I don't want it to be looked at as an assessment of blame. It is, from my standpoint at least, it is not that. But again, I would suggest that you take it up with the school committee and the school administration. Anybody else?
I understand what you just said, and I will speak my mind to the school committee, but I do want to say one thing. I am not only a resident of Lunenburg, I have a daughter that is a senior at Lunenburg High School, and I'm also an educator at Lunenburg High School. I know a lot of really great kids at Lunenburg High School, and I don't believe that the seniors or anyone else on the football team should be penalized because of a crime that we do not know has occurred. We do not know what happened, and it's not fair to assume that it's a student or an athlete of our high school. And I really do not want the seniors who I've known since my daughter has been a child, that have been to my house for play dates, have been to my house for various events, I don't think they should be penalized.
Thank you.
Steve Powell, Winter Hill Road, Lunenburg. I just want to come out publicly and say that, the football team and the media, and we all know what the media does. They spin. A lot of stuff doesn't get said. These kids truly stand behind Isaac. They're friends with Isaac. The majority, everybody on this football team, they want Isaac back on the team. There's no doubt about that, all right? Hopefully Isaac's out there listening. They want him part of the team. They want to walk out with him on the field Thanksgiving Day, all right? And we all hope and pray whoever did this will please come forward. You need direction. You're misguided. You need help, okay? You need to come forward pronto so you don't affect the rest of these kids. This Thanksgiving Day game, for all these kids, the band, the football team, the kids from St. Bernard's, the student body, the cheerleaders, everybody. It's very important. It's a huge thing. It's a memory you don't get back. And the person that did this, or people that did this, you've turned this town upside down. And Lunenburg's a great town. We love Lunenburg. I've been in this town. I grew up here all my life. And to see this stuff written in the paper and to watch the news, as you know, you wouldn't think that. And, let's just, hope and pray, and whoever you are, come forward, because enough's enough, all right? We'll deal with you. You need help, all right? You need help. We'll come forward and let these kids play their football game, Let's get this done. And if we ask anything, at least, if they can consider making a decision, give it a couple more days. The FBI, the police, I think we got some pretty good people on the case, and I think, shortly we'll know who it is. And I just hope that there's a slight chance that we can play this game, because these kids deserve it. All right, and they all support Isaac. They, contrary to what the media says, they were all at the vigil. They're fully behind him, and they want him back on the team. They want him back in Lunenburg. There's no reason to go to Leominster. All right, Leominster, great city, but this stuff goes on everywhere. All right, and no one's exempt from it. And we all want Isaac back. So I want that to be publicly known.
Thank you. Mr. Powell, I do want to thank you for the opportunity. I also do want to say that I'm sorry that none of the broadcast media is here tonight, because that was a glaring omission, that the entire football team, of course, as residents, we know the entire football team was there, as was the coaching staff. And just because they weren't on the gazebo in front and center didn't mean that they weren't there. And that's an important point that I think, as you pointed out, I think a lot of what the media is reporting are inaccuracies at best, and then hearsay and third-party speculation. So thank you for that opportunity, and I hope people do turn themselves in too, whoever the person or persons are. Anybody else? Mr. Berthium, Dr. Berthium.
Hello, I'm Greg Berthium. I'm at 1084 Mass Ave, and I'm chairman of the school committee. And I do have a statement that the school committee just wrote, and I'd like to read for you, if you don't mind.
Please.
On behalf of the entire Lunenburg School Committee, we wish to express our outrage and sorrow over the hateful and vile acts against one of our own. To Isaac Phillips and his family, we are deeply sorry and will, as a community, continue to support you. We assure you and our entire community that we will continue to work to ensure that hate has no place in our schools. We will continue to reach out to you and your family in support. As a reminder to everyone, there are 2 ongoing investigations taking place. The first investigation, being undertaken by the Lunenburg School Department, is intended to investigate allegations by the Worcester South School Department that racist slurs were used by members of the Lunenburg football team at both recent varsity and junior varsity football games. The second investigation is related to the racial slur scrawled on the home of Mr. Phillips and his family, and is currently under investigation by the Lunenburg Police Department, assisted by the Worcester DA and the FBI. Please keep in mind that this investigation is focused broadly and is not limited to the football players on our team. We expect a thorough and swift investigation into both of these matters. We wish to voice our support for our students, our football team, our faculty, our coaches, and the administration for their tireless work over the last few days, their support for each other, and their support for Mr. Phillips and his family. It is by these acts of community that we define ourselves. The recommendation of our coaches, school administration, and superintendent was to postpone and then cancel the Oakmont game. Although the coaches were hopeful the Thanksgiving game could be played, we support the decision of the administration and the superintendent to forfeit that game. We base this recommendation on our concerns for the safety and well-being of our students, players, and fans in the emotionally charged environment that's been generated by these recent acts. We also believe it would be highly inappropriate to play the remaining games while there is an ongoing investigation. We ask for all Lunenburg neighbors to come together not only in our shared outrage at this act of hate as amply demonstrated last Sunday, but to come together with a shared purpose that these hateful events do not define us, but our response to them will. We ask also for the community to continue to support our student athletes, coaches, faculty, administration, and each other through these challenging times. And that was unanimously approved by the 5 members of the school committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public discussion or public comment?
I'm confused. Excuse me. I'm really confused, Greg. My name's Lisa Connors. I'm confused because in one breath we're saying that it might not be the football team. But in another breath, we're taking it out on them by not letting them play. So I'm confused.
Worcester incident wasn't an incident the day it happened,
Please, not,
right?
if you want to speak, please come to the microphone.
I don't want to speak.
My name's Tammy Reynolds. I live at 101 Stone Fence Road. By this decision, we have just empowered the person who committed this crime. And we have gentlemen here who have worked very, very hard for many, many, many hours and weeks and months and years. Seniors who will leave this school with their memories of this program tarnished because we make a decision to allow that person, likely a stupid, immature teenager, to dictate to us the program that we as a town should be supporting. So I'm confused as well.
I just want to reiterate, this is not a decision of the Board of Selectmen. This is a decision of the school committee. And I do encourage you to establish that dialogue with the school committee. This is a decision by the administration of the school, which is a completely separate entity than the Board of Selectmen. They are elected officials, and they have that authority. This board does not.
I have a question. There's a poll that's being tossed around, and everyone is supposed to vote whether or not you agree or disagree. Based on the Sentinel today, it appears that the decision has been made that Lunenburg will not play on Thanksgiving. Is that correct, or is that not correct? Or do you know?
Are you asking, is the decision that was just read by the chair of the school committee reversible? Is that what you're asking?
Well, maybe I was talking to my husband at the time.
What was just said is that the game is
Okay, so what happens if if everyone votes on that poll that's been, everyone knows it's on Facebook and everything else. What happens if they do get enough votes? Is that reversible or not? Do you know?
I don't want to speak for the school committee.
Okay.
But a poll is certainly a popular opinion and doesn't carry it doesn't carry the weight of a town election, let's say, so it's certainly not binding. It may guide or influence their decision, but I don't want to speak for them.
Okay.
But there's no way that if you get enough, it's going to, by virtue of its power, going to overturn their decision.
Okay,
I
well,
would
that
say
was my
no.
question.
No.
Because I've had kids at school ask me, and I didn't know what to tell them, so.
Right.
Rick Hill, Oak Ave. This has been bothering me, as it has the whole town. I think the school committee made a very hasty decision in canceling Thanksgiving for both St. Bernard's and Lunenburg. These kids have worked throughout the Bengal program, throughout the Blue Knight program, and what is happening right now is affecting not only Lunenburg, but St. Bernard's. It's not a safety issue. That Worcester issue was not an issue at that day, okay? We understand how bad this situation is, but if the Worcester issue was such a major problem, then why wasn't it an issue then, okay? They canceled the game, they went away. Worcester were the ones that were speaking to our kids with that language. Maybe one or two of those kids retaliated, okay? It's high school kids. These kids are, 15 to 18 years old, they're playing football, okay? A kid's cleats get thrown in the trash can. That happens across America, okay? And what else happened? Oh, the tire was flat, okay? That happens across America, okay? All of a sudden, this happens, and you're gonna penalize the entire town, but not only our town, you're gonna penalize Fitchburg and all those kids at St. Bernard's, and not let them play football because of hearsay, this and that, okay? This problem that happened at the Phillips house, very sad. Keep in mind, if we find out it's 2 or 3 of our kids that did this, whether they be Blue Knights, whether they be soccer kids, whether they be music kids, it doesn't matter, they're still our kids. They're Lunenburg kids. We need to protect those kids. Let them come forward without the vigil and without all the media and basically a lynch mob against the kids that would like to maybe come forward and say, hey, I'm sorry, I screwed up. At the end of the day, they're teenage kids, and these kids all deserve to be playing football on Thanksgiving Day. I don't know. And who can supersede the school committee? Can you?
No.
Nobody can. Well, the school committee made a mistake. This is a hasty decision.
Dave Alf, Autumn Road. It just seems to me that I'm looking at the 4 selectmen and Carrie, the manager, you're giving us lip service. You've come right out and said that you have all these people here that are sitting there trying to make their point across, and you're saying, we can't do anything. It's up to the school committee. You are elected officials of this town. We expect you to run this town. This is what you're hired to do. And now we're coming up here with all our concerns and everything else, and you're saying, doesn't matter, you're giving us lip service. I don't see that as being viable. Whether it's a school committee or not, then the school committee needs to be up here and listen to this. I really think it's kind of, why are we here and why do we elect you people? I don't understand it.
I do have to acknowledge, amid the applause after that comment, that it would be helpful for everyone if people understood, truly understood, who has what authority in town. It really would be helpful to know that. To know that the school committee, as a 5-member elected body, has the authority over the school department by state law. Not by my decision, not by anybody in this room's decision, by our state law gives them that authority. You elect them to run the school. And I understand your anger, and I understand your frustration, but it should be directed at the places where you can say, make that change. If you're asking me, and I answered honestly, I thought I'm trying to be honest with you, really, and I'm sorry that I'm even getting agitated at this, but it really is something that the 4 of us, at least one of us, and I'll just use myself, I won't speak for the other members, you know, I don't want to be accused that I'm not doing something that I could do to help you when I don't have that authority, and I made it clear at the beginning that I don't have that authority. I don't have that authority not because I choose not to exercise it. I don't have that authority because the law doesn't give me that authority. Now, if you want to choose to go to the board or the committee that has that authority, they are meeting tomorrow night, I believe. So if you're asking why you're here, I'm assuming you're here because you want to voice and we want to share our opinions, and I want to hear everybody's opinions. And they are important to me. I'm sorry that we 4 or we 5, 6 with the town manager can't do all the things you want us to do. And we may not even agree with the things you want to do. But I think we need to respect the fact of we're here to listen and we understand. I understand both sides. I understand that it's a tough decision for them, and I understand it's a tough decision for the young people in this room to hear as well. I understand all the time they've put into it. It's not something I take lightly, and I'm sure, knowing all the 5 people of the school committee, it's not something they take lightly. It is a very difficult decision, but the decision does rest with them.
So we'll be back here tomorrow night.
I think that's perfectly fine. I think it makes sense. Ma'am. What?
Make it someplace, so I want to do it in the LHS auditorium. Because this could happen in 1 hour. We'll have the whole town here tomorrow. Hasty decision. Let's fix it tomorrow night. We don't have the time.
Well, If you're going to speak, please come to the microphone. Mr. Hill.
Robin Corbett, Sunset Avenue. I went to the school committee meeting tonight, and I talked to them, and I feel like the decision was made before I got in the room. I don't feel like I had a say. And I've been the team mom for the juniors and seniors on this team from Bengals until some of my boys are graduating this year. And it breaks my heart, and I'm not going to stop until Thanksgiving is over. They deserve to play, and I'm going to be behind them until I can't be anymore.
And I preserve your right to lobby.
Ann Nash, 1790 Mass Ave, Lunenburg. I have two boys on the team. One's a junior and one's a senior. Why are you here with a prepared statement? You know, if this is a town meeting. You know, why is the school committee member here with a prepared statement?
Well, this is a regularly scheduled selectmen's meeting. So,
right.
Okay.
So then why is a school committee member here with a prepared statement for us?
I will ask if they want to speak to that.
Do you understand my question?
This was a public opportunity for us to, on TV, as well as in front of whoever came, I'm Greg Bertham, chair of the school committee, to explain our justification, our reasoning, our thought process behind what we did. We do have a meeting tomorrow, and I hope people will come. We often have empty rooms, empty spaces, but we're in room 13 at TCP at 7 p.m. It's a regularly posted meeting. We meet the third Wednesday of every month in that space. And we invite you to come and share your concerns with us during the public comment period of that meeting. That would be the appropriate time. But given the short time available, you know, knowing that Thanksgiving's coming and this decision was important to explain, we wanted to get the information out as early as we possibly could.
And do you have children in the school system?
Absolutely, ma'am.
Do you?
Yes.
Yep. Well, you know, when you have children on the team that have been on the team for all these years, you know, it really is, it's heartbreaking. You know, these kids have worked so long, you know, and it's unfortunate that this one incident, you know, can ruin it. It's unfair to these kids. These kids have put their heart and souls into this team, and you know, my heart goes out to this boy and his family, but to blame all these kids, you know, and to take something away from them, you know, I understand the safety issue, but you know, we don't know who did this. You know, we have no idea. And again, you know, you better have a bigger room than just one room for tomorrow night, because there's going to be a lot of people there, you know. And you know, hopefully, you know, you'll have room for, you know, to change your mind and hear the people out, because you know, it means a lot to a lot of people. And you know, these boys have worked hard, and girls.
Just one more thing. I'd like to ask you a question, please. If we all go tomorrow, and please be honest, is there a chance that you would change your mind, or is this set in stone?
So the decision is made by a 5-member board. We cannot talk about that outside of a meeting. We just held an emergency meeting that was duly posted. So we will be able to talk about those things in an open meeting tomorrow night, but we're prohibited by the open meeting law from discussing that in this venue.
But you can talk about this tomorrow in front of all of us.
We can talk about it tomorrow in front of all of
And
you.
we'll have a chance, again, to voice our opinion.
We have a public comment section of the meeting, always do.
Is it more than 5 minutes like today?
It's however long it needs to be on a regularly scheduled meeting. Today, we had a total of an hour to do all of our business.
Put us down for 1,000.
People.
Yeah, people.
Ma'am.
Laura McGrath, Cushing Lane. And I think that in addition to it not being fair to punish the whole team, I think that there's something a little bit bigger here, and that's that we live in America. And last time I thought about it, we were innocent until we were proven guilty. And I just feel like the entire team is kind of being held in a cell until the investigation is completed. And, you don't even know that it was somebody from Lunenburg. And I'm not saying that the act wasn't disgraceful, but, we salute the flag every day. We have sons and daughters who serve in the military. And, in America, you are innocent until you're proven guilty, or I thought you were.
Stuart Lyons, 494 West Townsend. I know the vigil was supposed to be about peace, but really all it was about persecuting the coaches, asking for resignations. It was actually pretty disgusting. Why make the decision to cancel the game until all interviews are done? I know the kids have been interviewed, and they still haven't come up with anyone. FBI, state police, they're not cracking these kids down. So it should be reconsidered, and they should be allowed to play. They've worked too hard, and if nobody in this town has done this act, then they should absolutely be allowed to play.
Tom Johnson, 11 Whitetail Crossing. Quick question. If someone on the school committee does something wrong, do you blame the whole committee? That's all I had to ask.
Good question.
I think that we somewhat owe an apology to all of you, because I think we're all here to get answers, and you guys can't provide them. And I think we have to understand that. You guys are limited to what you can say, you're limited to what you know, and I think all of us here are just so anxious, and you have to understand that. As a community, we want to know who did this. I'm a teacher or a tutor at the high school. I had that student in class. I know him on a personal level. I feel badly for the family. I also have I have a daughter in the high school. She's a senior. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of people are upset. Kids don't know how to deal with this. So the staff is very, very busy. We're trying to keep things as normal as possible in the high school, as we possibly can. The administration is tied up constantly. They've got the FBI in there, they've got state police, they've got local police. Everyone in the high school is doing the best job that they can. And I think tonight, unfortunately, you guys are the scapegoats, and I'm probably one of them. But I think we all have to understand here tonight that you guys don't know anything that we don't know. No one knows anything, regardless of what people are posting on Facebook and emailing, and I can't even tell you how many text messages I've gotten, because I work at the high school and I have a daughter who's a senior. So right away, people think that I have all this information, and I don't. So I'm sorry that you're subjected to this. I think we're all just anxious. We all want answers, and I know that you can't provide them. So I think that as a community, we should just thank you for your efforts and appreciate the fact that we have to wait until we know what really has gone on and who's responsible for this.
I want to thank you for the comments, and we certainly don't need or ask for an apology, first of all. And we certainly knew coming into tonight that there would be a lot of heated things said. So I would reverse it and apologize for myself getting agitated at some of the things that were said about authority that we had or didn't have. It is a time, and it is a as I said at the beginning, a wound that has caused a big opening, and it causes lots of turmoil between a lot of a lot of competing ideas, a lot of people who have different views about how things should be treated, and I fully understand that. And so there is no need for anybody here to apologize for that. I mean, there are separations of powers in the town, and there are places to go, and even within those places that have the authority, I mean, they have principles and things that they need to follow within their own policies and in their own committees.
Exactly.
The one thing I want to reiterate that I think you made an excellent point that really has not been stated enough and has been really talked about and written about either in the media or the social media, either printed or broadcast media, and that is some kind of indication that we, either this board, the police, the school committee, the superintendent, the town manager, somehow we know more than we're letting you know. And I am here to unequivocally say that is not true. We have nothing to report because nothing has been presented to us to report. The police are under strict guidelines, obviously, from their oath that they take as police officers in investigations. So what's going on there is very secretive to them during the investigation, as it needs to be. So we are not privy to any information. It's not like we have suspects, we know leads. We don't know any of that. And I appreciate you saying that because it is the truth. As much as people may not want to believe it, it is the truth.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman. I just also want to thank you for those comments, and as the chairman said, there's no need for an apology, and I actually want to thank all of you for coming tonight, because this has affected our community, it's affected our families, it's affected our children, and I'm looking at all of these faces, and I understand your passion, and I understand your anger, and I would encourage you to go to the school committee, and I just hope that you all understand this is not a decision this board made, it is not a decision we can influence, but I do think that talking about it as a community, and regardless of how we fall on either side of the issue, we are a community and we need to come together. And I think this is the start of that. And I understand your passion, and I understand it's your children. As a mother of 2 children, I absolutely understand. So there's no need for apology.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Ebersol.
While we don't take a position because we don't have the legal authority to do that, I support the school administration for doing what it needs to do under its statutory authority. I don't know what they know. And I trust that the elected officials and the school administration are doing the right thing. That's all I can do. And so I want to state that I support them in doing their statutory duties. Not to negate any of the comments that you all made, and I understand the disappointment and everything that's going on there, but you elect the townspeople elect people to do their job, and I would expect the school committee to do their job and the school administration to do their job. Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Toll.
While I agree that we don't have the authority by state law to make these decisions, I do welcome the fact that you all took the time to come and express your feelings to us. Certainly helps me understand the town and my job in the town. At the same time, I think it's really important to understand that whatever decision is made by the people that are making the decision, a word I've heard and I just can't accept is this is not a punishment to the team for what happened. It just isn't. Regardless of what decision is made, that's the wrong frame of mind, and I can't accept that as a citizen. It's a decision that's going to be made for safety reasons or for investigative reasons or whatever reasons need to be made, but I don't want anybody on the team to feel that the decision is made as a punishment to the team or the members of the community. Someone perpetrated something really terrible. They're trying to figure out what it was. This decision is not in that light, I don't think.
Thank you.
I understand.
Seems to me there were more than one racial slur on that sign. And there were 2, Knights being the first one.
Well, please come to the microphone.
Being the second one. Because frankly,
Wait, only for the people at home. The only reason I say to come to the microphone, because otherwise people at home can't hear you.
I mean, 4 words made up what was written on that house. The first word was Knights. That to me is the first bad word they used. Because if that word wasn't on there, if it was a religious slur or a sexual orientation slur, these kids would be playing. They'd be playing. Because Knights was written there, That's why they're not playing. So I actually take offense to what you just said, because it is a punishment. If that word wasn't on there, we wouldn't be here.
That's a great point. Okay, I would encourage anybody who, well, first I'll give one more chance for somebody else to speak, but we will go ahead if anybody wants to speak from anyone. Otherwise, I would encourage people, please. No, you have to come to the microphone.
I'm from Shirley. Can I still speak? 'Cause if I
Yes, if I recognize you, you can speak. I do have that authority.
It's Carol Landers. I'm from Shirley. My son is a senior. I just wanted to ask the school committee to keep an open mind before we go in tomorrow, because I kind of worry, is this an issue that's a public relations issue? If the media wasn't all over it, would the same decision have been made? I know that, my son has played his heart out for 4 years, and he's been reading all the comments in the paper people have been saying about his friends, his teammates, and it saddens him and it saddens all of us. So I just want the kids to be given a fair chance tomorrow and you to have an open mind.
Thank you. Okay, I would encourage all, obviously there's very strong feelings. What? Oh, I'm sorry, please.
I'm Kate Kerrigan. I live in 56 Saddlebridge Drive, Leominster, actually. And I'm not going to sit here and talk for the football team because I'm not a member of it, but I'm a member of a lot of other sports. And I got to finish my season, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I could relate to the seniors that missed their last Thanksgiving game because I couldn't imagine it. And I think it's not fair for them to be punished because I'm also a Blue Knight, and I wasn't punished.
So again, I would encourage everybody here, obviously you have very strong opinions to share and points of view and perspectives to share with the school committee. I would encourage you to go to their meeting tomorrow night and say exactly what you said there, here to them tomorrow there. And I would leave it in their hands. I will say, just to reiterate what Mr. Ebel said, that I've worked with them, I know them, and they are elected officials, and I understand the very difficult position they're in. And I can appreciate the thought that must be going on in their mind as they hear this, as they've made this decision. So I know they're going to be there to listen tomorrow.
Just a quick question. Can the team practice tomorrow?
So that's not something, do you want me to come up?
Sure.
So a decision on practice is not a school committee decision. That's up to the administration and coaches.
Good.
Okay, again, I thank everybody for coming tonight. It was obviously another very strong showing from people on this issue, and I appreciate you sharing your views with us.
Thank you for listening to everybody tonight. And I think we all know that now we need to direct our concerns to the school committee tomorrow night. So thank you for listening.
All right, you're welcome. Let's wait several minutes so we can let people exit. let us get back to our agenda. Boards and vacancies. We have been getting a few talent bank forms filled out, and we are still looking for people to fill the vacancies in the Personnel Committee to help develop policies for those employees under the salary admin plan, which is basically most employees who are not under a union and who's covered by union contracts. And also for the Public Access Cable Committee, we're still looking for people to help guide the policies of cable. As you can see, and as I'm sure we'll probably all read tomorrow, that a lot of people probably watch this meeting and how these get televised and why they get televised. Not only this board's meeting, but the school committee, planning board are all important meetings for people to watch and hear, as well as other more entertaining and educational programs as well that get published on the and broadcast on the public access channel. So again, we're looking for people for those jobs, and I will continue to implore people to fill out talent bank forms and assist us and enter their skills and skill sets, or even just their interests, to develop these boards and plans with us. Thank you. Okay, number one, a request for voluntary toll for the Lunenburg High School music program. Sorry for the long gap. I'm sure you didn't believe you were going to be here that long.
I don't mind at all. My name is Jenny Whitcomb. I live on Houghton's Mill Road in Lunenburg. I'm here representing the Lunenburg Music Aiders, who are a booster club that provides support for all of the music programs in Lunenburg at all levels. The high school music students are going to be taking a trip to New York City in late February, early March, and are actively in the process of raising funds to offset the cost of that trip. And they would like permission to be able to stand in the center of town and collect voluntary tolls, as they have seen other organizations do in the past.
And you're asking for 2 dates.
Well, I threw 2 dates out there because, number one, I didn't know where to access a calendar where some other organization might already be on a date.
Okay.
And it might be a backup. And number two, I didn't know if that was even appropriate to ask, so the worst that could happen is you'd say no.
Sure. Right. And along those lines, I will say, and we'll ask if anybody else, I don't believe anybody else has been assigned either of those dates. But I will say, while we have not written the final policy, I, as a member, we want to make sure people do this in a judicious way, and to have two, only because you put and, or at least that's the way it was presented to us,
right,
and both of those days, we're not going to, I would not be in favor of approving both dates. So we will certainly can do one.
That's fine.
Have you met with and spoken with the police chief?
I have not. I did not meet with him. I understand that I need to do that, and I need to contact the DPW as well for the reflective vest, but I was going to wait and see whether I was granted permission before I went forward with this.
Mrs. Bertram.
One of the questions that I have, is it actually going to be, we have had a policy where we don't want children in the roads, and so the question that I have is, are these going to be the actual kids or the parents of the kids that are going to be in the roadway?
I think via Carrie's email that might be a policy, and so the parents of the music students have enthusiastically offered to step into that role.
Okay.
So it would be the parents.
Okay.
Yes, we have informally taken up guidelines that we are going to be putting together in a formal policy, but that nobody under the age of 18 will be in the road. And then, of course, you will be wearing
The
reflective clothing
vests, right.
or vests. And I'm assuming, although it is not listed here, that you are looking to do this at the same two intersections that everybody else has the voluntary tolls, right here in Town Center and at the corner of the intersection of Route 13 and Whalum Road. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I would entertain a motion on this, contingent, of course, on the fact that the music, the voluntary, that the organization meets with the police chief and the DPW and gets all proper information.
So moved.
But we need the date.
Yeah, I was
Yes,
just
which
gonna
date
say,
would you
which-
prefer?
Nobody else has requested either date, so.
I think there is one on the 14th, if I remember.
Right, but
Both
not
of
on
those
7th
days
to the
are open.
21st.
Okay. Well, then I would propose the Saturday, the 21st.
Okay. For December 21st.
Yes. of
2013.
December. I do have a question about what the standard amount of time is that you allow that toll to take place.
Well, there is no standard, but generally people do it from like 9 to 1 or 10 to 2.
Right. It's
Okay.
typically a 4-hour block.
4 hours. Okay.
Which one would you prefer? Again.
Why don't we say 9 to 1?
Okay, 9 to 1.
Have you had it at as early as 8 to noon before?
If that's what you're requesting, we can do 8 to noon.
Well, if it's all right, then I would like to request the 8 to noon spot on the 21st of December.
Okay.
Are we set?
Hope so.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request for a voluntary toll for the LHS music program on December 21st from 8 to 12 at the 2 intersections mentioned, subject to discussions with the police chief.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.
Thank
Good luck.
you. Thank you very much.
A request from the DPW director to establish winter road closing date of 11/29 of this year.
The DPW director asked that you table this item right now. He is in the process of drafting up a policy to present to you on this matter.
Okay. Review a transition to the regional dispatch with the fire chief and police chief, both miraculously in attendance.
So this is an item that you had requested on your agenda several months ago. Back in June of this year, we actually transitioned, the end of June, transitioned over to regional dispatch. We were the first of 4 to transition over to regional dispatch, and as you can imagine, there were, so definitely some bumps in the road. And I think through a combination of your agenda was very busy, and we wanted a little bit of time to go by to make sure we knew what the little bumps were, let the little bumps work themselves out, and any potential larger issues to be addressed here, which I don't think that we have, but I think we've had enough experience now with regional dispatch that I think we're all able to have a calm and rational discussion about it. So I did not ask the chiefs to prepare anything because I know we've talked about this a couple of times. I know some of you have been over to the regional dispatch. As we got closer to this meeting, we weren't sure, how much time there would be on the agenda. So I don't know if each of you just have any opening comments you'd like to make, and we were hoping to have more of a discussion rather than a presentation on this.
Right. Well, certainly what I would ask is that you give us, from each of your perspectives in your departments, how you felt the transition went. Any of, notable bumps along the way that have been resolved, and maybe any open issues that may still be lingering, or things that were not thought of during the transition period prior to actually making the switch.
Mine's probably shorter than yours. On the fire side, again, like as you're aware, we've seen some challenges along with it. A lot of ours have been technology related. They've been getting corrected as we go along. We had some concerns with the station alerting system that it wasn't working quite properly. That's been addressed, been taken care of. We've been working on some procedural things. Again, it's a combination of us getting used to them getting used to us. They've been working out. Now that they've gotten their workflow together, they have all their employees on staff, things seem to be starting to come along pretty well now. We have a really good rapport with Director Kenny down at the center. As he says, he misses my daily phone calls. Now we're down to about once every other week now. And, whenever we have a problem, he does address it and gets it taken care of for us. The main thing has been technology. It was a lot of stuff that wasn't foreseen or that people expected to work that didn't work initially, and we're continuing to make it a work in progress. If I'd grade it right now, I'd say after we dropped a little bit, we're back to where we were, and now we're trying to move forward to bring things even better than they were before.
If I could just ask you, Chief, if you would flesh out a little bit of what you mean by technology. What parts of the technology were
We
the
have
glitches?
some transferring all of our computer software and servers down there. Now they come through an internet connection. As Chief Marino can fill you in a little bit more, that connection was tenuous at best for a while. They had to make some modifications to the system to get it to be more robust and more reliable, that it wouldn't kick us out. We were having trouble with people getting into it. We have some issues with being able to automatically send through our EMS reports to the hospitals. That's being addressed now. That's supposed to be something that was able to happen with the software that we had when they upgraded it. And for reasons that are well beyond my knowledge of computers, it wasn't working. They're taking care of that now. I said the in-house alerting system in the station used to be simulcasted with the radio tones. It wasn't. That was something that was left out that nobody picked up on until after they went over. So it delayed the transmission of a call slightly. That's been resolved and it's taken care of now, so we've definitely dropped down the time for the call to go out, get it out over the radio. The EMD is working quite well, the emergency medical dispatch. So, you know, we're starting to see more of that information flowing back to us on the way to the call, is what's going on, what's happening, and definitely the call processing time seems to have come down. So
that brings up two questions that I have, and I'm just going to address one department at a time, only because it just seems to make sense. The one thing is that, so the chief saying that servers actually went out of our department and are at regional dispatch. Has that freed up? I mean, did we have IT services and an accounting for them in the budget that has been released that we didn't realize we would?
Not really.
Well, you know, I would say no, because our IT staff is still very involved in IT at the regional dispatch. I think going forward that might lessen, but this transition has required an awful lot of their time. I think when their time is freed up, they will just take on other tasks. I mean, I don't expect that as a result we would reduce our IT staff.
No, that wasn't what I was implying, and nor did I want to. What I'm saying is that for instance, if a server is now not on location at Lunenburg, but it's at the regional dispatch, first of all, is it still the responsibility of Lunenburg, or is it uncovered if anything happens to that equipment under the regional?
It's right. It's the regional dispatch center has IT.
Right. So my point is, in accounting for IT's time and the budgeting of the maintenance of that equipment, that does free up resources here, not so that we're looking to, God forbid, lay off somebody on a very already bare bone staff, but they will have opportunities to address other issues in the town.
Right, but I think we're probably still months away, and
right,
I would
it was still
imagine
under transition.
Yeah.
And isn't it, based on the tour at the dispatch, isn't our Lunenburg site one of the backups for
it will be eventually.
So therefore, there will still be IT equipment at the station, so that in the event that it goes down in Devon's, we may be the backup site.
We still maintain like 4 servers. The only thing we moved down there was our software, more or less. It's now resides on their servers. Just for our public safety software, our records management system, that all resides on their servers. We still maintain maybe 5 servers. We have a server for our security system, huge. We have a DVR that's 32 channels, that's huge. We have, I believe, 4 other servers. One of them, our previous records management system resides on that server. We had to maintain that because we couldn't do a data conversion on that. And in order to access those records, we have to go into that server, and that's housed in our station. We access an old records that couldn't be converted from our newer records management system on a server at our station. So we do still maintain service. We still have you know, and numerous, a large amount of, you know, peripherals, hardware, and so on and so forth that still needs their attention. It has nothing to do with the IT people down at Devon's. Primarily, their focus is on that Citrix connection that they need to maintain, and the portion of our records management system that resides on their service. Okay. That's really...
In general, it's a small part of the overall IT that left.
Yeah, I didn't want to, I hope I didn't mischaracterize. I wasn't characterizing it that there's nothing there anymore. I just wanted to know of the pieces that went, but it sounds like from Chief Marino that it's more of a software licensing transfer than
And the
it
server,
was actually...
the one server that
and one
supported
server,
that.
okay.
And then the 911 equipment, which we weren't responsible to maintain
exactly.
anyway.
So my second question was about, you know, one of the things going forward was about, with our decision to go with the regional dispatch, was the incoming mandate for EMD. Have we used that service already? Has that been utilized?
It's been used for over a year now. We were using it prior to the changeover. The advantage they have there is it's computerized. It's part of the dispatch software that they can pull that up, start going through their lists, obtain the information, and the advantage you have is a second dispatcher can get the call going a little bit quicker.
Right.
And
that's
get it
what I'm
out
saying.
to us.
So that process has been employed because of the regional dispatch.
Right. We were employing it for a year before then, but it was only one person doing it. So that adds some challenges. You're going like a one-arm paper hanger. And that now you have a couple extra sets of hands that you can help do that. Speeds up the call processing time. From the time the phone rings till the time the call goes out over the air.
But that meets the mandate, right?
Yes.
We were supposed to.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Yes. And we're seeing now that they're getting into their workflow, that we're seeing that information come quicker to us over the radio.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions for Chief Sullivan?
When I asked the question regarding data on buildings for fire, and he said that hadn't happened yet. So for instance, if their call comes into, say, Town Hall, anything that might be related to the Town Hall, does that come up on their software to explain?
Yes.
It does?
Yes.
Okay.
All of our computer database from Lunenburg Police and Fire form the core of the new system that they created down there, and they basically merged in all the other towns' data into ours. So nothing was lost. So we still have all the information that we originally had for almost all the structures in town.
So information like that they're storing hazardous materials, that's all in?
Nothing of that was lost.
That's great.
That we have all of that. So.
And then,
nor was it for any of the other communities either, except for Harvard. They didn't use that particular software.
and the only other question I have, and there's a movement nationally, that the dispatch coordinator manager stated that 70% of calls are now coming through E911, through mobile phones. And so the question of, is there anything that we can do, the state can do, or is that a national thing in order to do caller ID as far as triangulating where the person is?
There is a system in place. I do not know all about it. I know Director Kenny was looking into getting that center set up to be able to receive those calls directly. Currently, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, they go through the state police. Yep. Then they are forwarded out to the local dispatch center. There are a few that are taking the calls directly. He's looking to do that. Again, it's a function of time and money.
Thank you.
To be able to do that.
Any other questions? So your side of it, Chief Marino, how did the transition go? How is it going? I'm assuming that it's not completely finalized.
Let me see, where do I start? Gotcha.
I got nervous when he started opening his folder.
That was a prop. Yeah, there's been a few bumps in the road. We're making a lot of progress. Most of it is our technology issues. Initially we had a huge problem with the phone system because we don't have a voice over IP, and they do. We had to make that work. We can make that work a whole lot better with a voice over IP system. The problem is it's very expensive. The IT person here, Steve Melandrino, said in excess of $100,000 to make that all work. So that's not something I asked for on his capital plan this year, you know, with what we got coming. But down the road, that's something we're going to have to look into to improve our phone communications, unless there's some new technology that comes, you know, along in the meantime. But we have resolved that for now. It's working. There was issues we had that it was nobody's fault on our side or on the Neshoba Valley Dispatch side at all with other technology. One of the vendors was very slow to move some of the equipment in the station and to install some of the equipment that we badly needed, and that went on for months. We've been able to get over most of that. They've kind of come full circle with us and trying to resolve all of those issues, although there are still a few that are left. I spoke to that person, that company today, and they're supposed to come out by the end of next week and hopefully resolve those issues. And what those amount to is what's a couple of the things that we can't do right now is if there's an issue in the station when the station's all locked up and there's no desk person, it's hard to get somebody inside the lockup if there's a problem. In other words, an outside agency, because they don't have a transponder like we do to get in the building. The company's telling me that they can resolve some of those issues, and they may be able to they may be able to make the system work down at Neshoba Valley so that they have the capability of essentially pushing a button and opening the Sallyport door, maybe the Fleet Garage door, and maybe some of the doors inside the station. They're pretty sure that they can make that happen. And I'm hoping to get that resolved by next week. There's also an emergency button in the lockup. There's a big red button on the wall. If there's a problem in the lockup, if an officer's in trouble or a prisoner, they can hit that button, and what it does is it swings the camera around and points it at that area, and then notifies the dispatcher with a tone that there's basically an emergency tone, there's a problem in the lockup. None of that has worked since June 28th. I wasn't aware of that until about 2-3 weeks ago. The company is going to come in and try to resolve that issue as well. Hopefully they can get that resolved so that, all of our security systems are up to speed. The Citrix connection still isn't 100% stable. We're still having issues with that. We're having issues with the printers on occasion. Initially, we had a huge issue with the booking camera. We have a very expensive facial recognition booking camera that wouldn't work because the software resides in a different location. It needs to reside in the same location as the camera resides. They've been able, our IT people, in conjunction with theirs, and the company that actually built the camera, were able to come up with some convoluted way to make it work. It's about, I say it works 60% of the time. So, and that might be because the Citrix connection isn't as stable as it probably should be. But we're working on that too. We have some plans for that. Steve Melandrinos is in touch with a guy who is kind of an expert in that field and who's already set up 2 regional dispatch centers using Citrix up in Maine, and he's willing to come down here and show us, or make us aware of some of the problems that which are similar problems that he was able to resolve up there. So we got a plan in place. So those problems hopefully be resolved. We're going to employ this program. We started to do this prior to June 28th, but it didn't get off the ground. What we would like to do is have the dispatchers from the regional dispatch come over here for a couple hours a night and ride with the patrol people, just so, number one, they get very familiar with our procedures. And in addition to that, there's some policies that they're going to need to learn that affect them as well, or have an effect on us through them. Secondly, what I'm trying to accomplish is more of a team kind of a more of a team concept, because now that they're removed and they're in another location, I don't want I don't want to ever come up with an us against them concept. I want a team concept so that they know each other on a personal basis, so that they know they know our procedures. We'll become more familiar with their procedures. I just think that'll help the communication aspect of it, and the workplace culture, I think, will be a whole lot better. Not that there's anything wrong with it now. I just think we need to maintain that, because they're in a different location and they'll become strangers after a while. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So we got a plan in place for that, and we've already started scheduling people. As far as I know, I have my staff scheduling with the director down there, scheduling people to do that, and it's only for like a couple hours a shift every couple of weeks or something, because we don't want to. I don't think they need to be there for 8 hours a month or something. Just a familiarity thing. Other than that, it's a growing pains thing. It's getting used to change, which is already, I think, we're accomplishing a lot of that. We're getting by all of that. We're starting to adapt to everything that's new, and how long. It takes time, and we're beginning to. Our staff is beginning to accept that fact that this is going to take some time, really, to get completely, resolved. Everything's going to take time, and to become completely organized. We understand that. We have to understand. It's all brand new to all of us. So that's been happening. Everybody's getting used to it. Trying to adapt to it and so forth, and so from that standpoint, everything's really starting to go along a lot smoother, and once we get all the technology issues straightened out, I think we're not going to have a problem at all. The other. Of course, the other aspect of that, and I know I'm concerned about this, and I'm not going to stop talking about this, is the fact that now, we still have 12 hours a day, 12 hours a day that the place isn't manned, and on weekends. And I'd like to see that change. And Carrie and I have talked about some strategies in order to get that done. So, that's something we're looking to do as we go forward. And I'm going to put that out there, because I don't want someone to be accused of, well, you never talked about that before, and now all of a sudden it's a problem. And to that end, what I do is, the desk officer that's there now, what I do is I have them, they have a phone log. So every time they get a phone call, they write down the date, time, and who called and why, and for who, the fire department, the police department. Same with the lobby. Everybody that comes in the lobby now signs in. So we do have an accounting of foot traffic in the lobby during the day. Of course, we can only do that from 7 to 7. We don't know what happens after that, and it's going to be very difficult to try to reconcile that without. I can get some numbers, I suppose, off the camera and so on and so forth if I had to, but. At least we're trying to show that there is a need. If you saw some of the logs, I just printed up a few, but it's a very busy place from 7 to 7, extremely busy. And having somebody there, and I thank you for that, Carrie, is quite frankly, I don't know how we do without it. It'd be a hard place to work with the staff we have. So everything's going along pretty well.
I would reiterate Jim's concern too. I have the same concern about the security around the building. There's been at least one episode where we had someone walking around the building at night. We don't know who he was, knocking on doors out back. It was after the evening shift had gone home. One of my personnel had been in the station. He went to find the guy and don't know who it was, but it was clearly somebody walking around the building, knocking. And, at any given time, we don't know who could be around there. So it is a concern for me as well.
So what we did, just to refresh everybody's memory, is the savings that we realized by going to the district, we essentially left those dollars within public safety. And we have used those dollars to fill this desk officer position, is what it's being called right now. And the desk officer is also serving, while that person is there, in a dual capacity in monitoring lockup. So we're also allocating some of the lockup dollars to that. And, you know, as we get into the budget, we'll have to put together a justification for need for additional funding within public safety. I mean, this is something that we face every year, that we have a very small police department and a very small fire department for the number of calls and the level of activity, and it's something that both of the chiefs and I have made an issue every year, and it's not going away. There's an awful lot of interest by other communities in joining the regional dispatch district, and I think at the point in time where it makes sense, where we have enough experience under our belts with the 4 communities that originally joined, that board will be looking at bringing in another community. And there are definitely 1 or 2 communities out there that could easily be brought in with the existing staff, that we wouldn't have to hire additional staff at the regional dispatch district to be able to handle the increased call volume. But what that would do is it would further reduce our assessment, which we could then use to supplement the police and fire departments here locally. So the executive committee or administrative committee of the regional dispatch district that would make that decision is the 4 administrators of the community. And there are 2 who I think are willing to move faster in bringing somebody in, and there are 2 who are not. And I'm one of the nots right now. But there definitely is interest among a couple of smaller communities that I think we could do easy enough. But each time we've brought a community on, there have been a different set of challenges. I think we faced the most challenges, and I think the executive director over there would agree that we're the largest community. We have the highest volume. I think we were the most sophisticated in the way that we are using the record management system, because some of the issues that were identified here were not issues with other communities because they weren't using certain components of that software. At the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we also upgraded the software at the same time that we moved, and I think we had some customization in our software that we just were used to and weren't necessarily aware, because we had been using it for so long that when we went to the upgrade, certain components of that software were not turned on. And so we went through that whole process. But I think it's been very good for all of us. I think we've had an awful lot of challenging calls in the several months. I know in speaking to the executive director, he's been pretty impressed by the call volume, the level of calls, the sophistication of the calls. They've really been challenged, and I think that they have handled it well. The staff over there, we had people from four different communities coming together. People have been moved from shifts, so you might have one of our dispatchers, who's a supervisor over there, regularly work the overnight shift, and he's working the day shift. There are other people who maybe worked a night shift. They're on days or days and nights. So that in and of itself is a challenge. But I think everybody has handled it very well. Our personnel certainly has handled it very well, because it's been a challenge for them. They went from working with people that they knew. They knew what they looked like. They knew how they reacted to situations. They knew their voices. to, having to put their faith in people that they didn't know, that they may not have seen before. You couldn't put a face to a name, so it's been challenging, but both of the chiefs have done a tremendous job, and their staffs have done a tremendous job, and I think it's been a big benefit to the community.
Thank you. I want to ask a couple questions. First of all, I want to state that I'm glad that you both came here and giving us your frank analysis of how that went, because I think that's important for us to know and to feel comfortable as a board and as a community of how that went. As somebody who also had questions and doubts, even though we all voted, I believe we voted unanimously for the regional dispatch, some of us, and I know I was one of them, had doubts about leaving it unmanned, and I'm glad to hear both of you say that that is a priority, because I believe that still remains a priority. And as long as we can keep that in focus and address that the soonest we can, I think that would be good. My question for you, Chief, you brought up some yellow flags, so I have two questions. First of all, are there any red flags on that list of things that are in the process of being addressed or haven't been addressed?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Those are the last two things. I mean, I wasn't even aware some of this stuff didn't work. Somehow that got slipped by. Nobody's fault. Like I said, the vendor should have pointed that out. A vendor that we had, a little bit of setback with. So I think like I said, I think it's all on, we're on the road to getting all of these issues taken care of. I can't think of any other red flag, so to speak.
And so you're confident that the ones that are in process will get resolved?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
The issues that we've had are being taken care of.
Excellent. So another question I have is, when it's unmanned,
yeah,
the station, I know, because I had to actually call into the police station after hours, that rolls over to the dispatch.
That's correct.
Is that recorded separately on their side of what comes in to Lunenburg Police Department number as opposed to the 911 calls?
Yes, it is.
So there is a way to track how many people try to get in touch with the police station after hours?
Yes, yeah.
That would be an interesting number to know.
Yeah, we could do that. We may even still record 4531. Do we still have that recorder?
We still have the recorder. I do not know if those record. I'll find out though.
Yeah, I know it's recorded. And there may be some kind of a redundancy system actually, if I'm right.
We do maintain recorder, the old 911 recorder for all the radio transmissions. I'm just not sure about the 911 lines. They're not there anymore.
Right.
The fire emergency lines immediately go down there, so they're not being recorded at the station. I'm not sure about yours. I'll have to look at that. I haven't had any reason to look. And that was only 4531.
Yeah.
And I only mentioned that as a way to just track how many people try to get in touch with the station after there's nobody there anymore.
Good point. I didn't even think of that myself. I would say there is one thing that I am in the process of trying to resolve. I mean, another thing that I'm in the process of trying to resolve. And we're running into a radio issue. We're not running into it. It's been there for a while, but it's become worse because apparently they maintain a 118-foot high antenna down there in Devens, and we have a city north of Boston that happens to be on the same frequency as us, and we're having a problem with them interfering with us. Now, they've been very cooperative in terms of their radio maintenance person's been trying to turn their power down, and they're trying to, I think they changed the direction of their antenna, and we tried putting a different antenna on the tower down in Devens, but it still seems to be a problem. So I've been in constant contact with our radio maintenance person. A year ago, I applied for a new frequency because I knew this would be a problem. And new frequencies in the T-band, I think it is a really difficult.
We're in the T-band.
We're in the T-band. Opposite the T-band, are very difficult to get. I was able to obtain one. However, there were so many restrictions on it. I'm not sure that we could have used it anyway, but when we did go to program our repeaters, the radio people told us you're looking at $15,000, $20,000, and we just don't have that kind of money. And we're not even sure that the frequency is going to work properly, and they're really difficult to get. So we're trying to resolve that issue, and it can be a problem sometime because they can't hear us down there. But, you know, it's just one of those things. It's not, you know, without a lot of money, there's no way to resolve it immediately. And we are working on it. We're trying to come up with some kind of a patch for it. So, yeah, just so you know.
No, I appreciate that.
I did ask in capital this year for money. There's a repeater down on Leominster Shirley, or there's a repeater tower down on Leominster Shirley Road that they were nice enough to put an antenna for Pat and I up when they put the tower up. So the antenna exists. We just need to put a receiver down there. I asked for money this year for that, and I think that should be a priority. I think that's an important thing. And I also, just so you know, I asked for a generator for the Sunny Hill Road site because that's our main repeater site. We have no generator up there. I asked for a standby generator. Right now it goes to backup batteries. That should have a standby generator because it's our main repeater site.
As of now, we have to get up there and manually hook up a portable generator to it.
We've had it go down.
That system.
Once that goes down.
Did that a lot during the ice storm.
Yeah. Yeah, I had gas to it and everything. The one I'm proposing will be natural gas, so we won't have to worry about firing it up. It should fire up automatically, because that would be, we're out of business if we lose that. So those are important things to us that we, you know, that we learned.
To do really with this.
Well, it kind of did, because that's how we learned it. You know, we started looking at all our infrastructure when this was happening to make sure we were good, you know, that when we got online, you know, so that's how that all came about, so.
The challenge with modern radio equipment, it's no more vacuum tubes and wires, they're more computers than they are, with all the challenges that go along with them when they don't work right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just as a way of explaining why it costs so much. In the old days, not even the old days, 5 years ago, you put a laptop and change the frequency in 5 seconds. Today, they want to sell you keys and so on. It's these things they call keys. They're like $5,000 a piece. You know, all this equipment just to change a frequency is what I'm being told. You know, whereas in the old days, it was a matter of just programming it.
Sounds like
just
a
service
call. That sounds like, you know, hardware licensing issues.
That's what it is. Keys are licensed.
That sounds like marketing.
Yes.
I tend to agree with you. You know, so.
Mrs. Bertram.
I just have a question about the phone system. You mentioned that you'd been having troubles with the phone system, that it's working now, but we don't have the voice over IP. Are you requesting additional funding, or it's working at the point where it's stable and no additional funds are needed, or where are we with the phone system?
It's stable, antiquated but stable. I mean, stable enough. If I had to put a percentage on it, I'd call it 70% stable.
The system works. It is not far from perfect, but it works. You know, phone calls are not going to get lost. But there was a definite challenge for it to come into our station, go back down to them, and then to get it back to us if they need to. Somebody needs to talk to us in the station. We have it working, but it's a convoluted system to make it happen.
So the issue is internal? I'm trying to understand what the issue is.
We are the only building in town that does not have voice over internet phones.
Okay.
And it's an older technology. We have the old analog phones, and that's
a few places in town don't have them.
Okay,
It's not
I
just
thought we were the only ones.
I don't think any places in town have voice over IP. I think that has been proposed by different committees and different members of the community, but I don't think we have voice over IP on anywhere. A lot of it because until recently, you know, when we were using the internet and we were using the broadcast, the line of sight networking equipment in the tower of this building to the high school, and that was the way we distributed internet, that wouldn't support it because of the speed issue. Then now we could do it, but still, as the chief said, you still have to get the phones themselves. With mass broadband coming in, and once the community anchor institutions, of which the public safety is one of them, has them, you will definitely have the bandwidth to do it, but we're still looking at the equipment costs of doing it.
I think a good way to sum it up is it's not a hazard, but it's still an issue. It's not perfect by any.
Yeah, my question on voice over IP is this just a connectivity with dispatch, or is it something you'd want in your whole department?
Both, actually.
Yeah.
But primarily we're concerned with connecting with dispatch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you for soldiering through.
Thank you.
I agree.
6 months, we may be even saying it's working perfect by then, who knows?
Well, and we'll have you back at the 1 year anniversary, June 20th of next year. We'll probably have you back to make sure that all these are resolved. And, we appreciate, because there's not many regions to go on, is a real bunch of problems and bag of things that happen that are unforeseen because there's no one else to rely on and say, oh, by the way, when you do this, watch out for X, Y, and Z. So you're really there as forging the way. You're really, blazing the trail for other places that hopefully there will be a model for the rest of the Commonwealth for people to do this.
Yeah. But, it's going to take a couple of years, and you got to accept that. And we're committed to that, to make it work.
You have till June. About a couple of years.
Yeah, right. All right.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing and being candid about how it's gone. And, if anything comes up that is, obviously you would be contacting the town manager anyway, but if anything comes in that, it sounds like we're over that part where any big surprises could happen.
Yeah.
But we do want to know about it.
All right.
Certainly.
Sure.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Review the draft ballot question. Establish a snow date for the special town meeting and other special town meeting issues.
So in terms of both the warrant question and the ballot question, we are in the same place that we were last week where, the only thing I need is a description of the project, which I have requested from the superintendent. I had hoped to have yesterday or today, but unfortunately with everything going on, I don't have that yet. The school building committee is meeting on Thursday night, so I will make sure I don't leave that meeting without that. And then I will circulate the question to you, since the warrant article will be submitted by the school building committee, so they'll approve it at their meeting, and it will come in before the deadline. And then you will see everything at your next meeting right now, which is scheduled for December 3rd. You'll see it well in advance of that, but on December 3rd, we'll be approving the warrant and the ballot question that evening.
Now, we have, Mrs. Bertram.
No, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
One of the things that's on the schedule is that we're supposed to submit our recommendations, right?
Yeah, what we will need to do is to move out the printing of the warrant, and we do have some flexibility. So we will be moving out the printing of the warrant until just after your December 3rd meeting.
So we can take a position. So two things are true, and please tell me if I'm incorrect. We will have the description of the project for our next Selectmen meeting on the 3rd, and at that meeting, we can discuss if we want to make a recommendation before the printing at that meeting.
Yes.
Okay. And hopefully also at that point, because we are obviously one member short this evening, and I'm sure Mr. Matthews would want to weigh in on this, so we can do that at that meeting.
And Mr. Chairman, I had expressed some concern. The requirement is that we vote to fund the entire amount. And I had asked if it was possible to add some additional language in there, and I believe we were going to check on that, if we can do that for our next meeting.
I'm still waiting for that answer.
Okay. So now, do we have the need right now to create the snow date for a special town meeting tonight?
No, I think you can do that at the next meeting. If I could just mention, obviously there's a concern with the meeting being held in January that there's a potential for inclement weather. I did have the town clerk get in touch with the moderator and asked both of them about either the Wednesday, the following evening, or Thursday, and both of them came back and suggested Thursday, and really for practical reasons, that if we have a bad storm, it might be bad on Wednesday as well. So it might make sense to do that on Thursday. The high school auditorium is open both of those nights, and it's being held open for the potential of a snow date. So I think the sooner you decide, the better for school administration, but I don't think it's a huge issue if you wanted to wait.
Well, I don't have any problem doing it now or waiting.
Yeah, I
Mr.
don't
Chairman,
have a problem doing
I move that we make the snow date January 9th.
Second?
Thursday, January 9th. Yep.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of Thursday, January 9th, 2014 at 7 p.m. being the snow date in case of inclement weather on the scheduled day of Tuesday, January 7th of 2014 at 7 p.m. being necessary to call that day off. Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. So if you can add that to the schedule here.
I will do that. And then, again, on the process, if the meeting needs to be called because of weather, that question was asked, how does that actually happen? And I have further clarification on how that actually happens. Both the town clerk and the moderator have to go to the meeting at the posted time. The moderator opens the meeting and then adjourns it to this date certain. So it's not as simple as putting a notice. The meeting actually has to be opened and adjourned for lack of a quorum and then posted for
Okay,
the Thursday.
but that, I mean, well, again, I don't want to get mired in technicalities, but that begs the question that what happens if the moderator and the town clerk, if the weather is so bad that we're not going to have it, that they can't even get there?
Well,
Then it would be a state of emergency. That would be the only reason why they couldn't get there. Will you get the police or DPW to pick them up and bring them there?
Okay.
But it has to be done in order to make sure that it's a
No, I
legal
understand
meeting.
that. I just-
Especially with the borrowing, every bond council is going to be looking at everything.
Okay. Can we make sure now that our town moderator and town clerk have all-wheel drive?
I would follow the vehicle policy.
Fucking red one.
Well, they could sleep over for a week.
Okay, the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Townsend for the sale of net metering credits, which was included in our packet.
so this is essentially the same document that you reviewed several months ago now. When we talked about this the last time with council here, the board expressed a concern that Lunenburg is only interested in selling excess credits, not a percentage of what is produced. So this document has been modified so that only excess credits, the town determines if there are excess credits, and only excess credits are sold, and they're sold at the same rate, for the same price that we are purchasing from them from, so there's no markup there.
Yeah, on that pricing thing, I guess my question was, is there any administrative burden, or does it just go directly from New Gen to Townsend, or do we have to do something?
You know, I think the administrative burden is very minimal because if we feel we have excess credits, our only administrative burden is that we modify Schedule Z so that the utility distributes the credit. So we didn't include any administrative fee for any work that the town has to do because we felt that it was very minimal.
So that billing is done directly through the utility. There will be no billing component responsibility from the town of Lunenburg.
Right.
Okay.
And I see, at least it seems that I see that the actual properties or locations have been removed from this, and it will be basically the aggregate of what we will have available, the excess of that. It's not going to be tied to either the Chase Road project or the Pleasant Street, West Street project, as the initial one was.
Well, that's true, but the only municipal credits are coming from the Chase Street project now anyway, but
that's not listed here.
Right.
In case that changes,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the town of Townsend is actually, their Board of Selectmen is taking this up December 3rd. They have special town meeting tonight, so they're not taking this up tonight.
And our town council is okay with this, correct?
Our
With the
town-
changes
Yes,
that we have put in, actually that he put in.
yes.
You are comfortable with this too?
I am, yep.
And the board? Any comments, any questions?
I am comfortable with it, but I think we need to get the feedback from Townsend before we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any need to act on this evening. I had thought Townsend was taking it up tonight and forgot that they had their special town meeting. The status of the project is the developer is in the process of pulling building permits. He has met with the planning director and the building inspector several times in the last couple of weeks. He right now is in the process of putting together the sureties that he needs to provide the town for the project. And I do expect probably by the end of this month or early next month, he's going to be pulling the building permit for the project and then starting construction as soon as possible thereafter. And we're looking at having the facility up and running and producing at least some level of credits by the end of the fiscal year. So we have some time.
Okay, so we can wait till their response and if they have anything they'd like to see altered. Minutes. And warrants. Accounts payable warrant in the amount of $132,887.80. And payroll in the amount of $656,620.25. Payroll deductions in the amount of $263,561.15. Action file issues. There was a late filing in the action file that was actually handed directly to me and other town officials in Lunenburg at the vigil on Sunday night that I've had the town manager copy and present to you here. I wanted you all to be aware of it, that it is a request from a student who's proposing that a youth summit called that he entitles "No Bullies, No Hate" be held on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so a week from tomorrow, before school is let out. Obviously, this again is in the realm of the school committee and the school administration, but as a board of selectmen, and since it was handed to us through me as well as to them, it would be worth discussing and if for nothing else, giving our comments about the request, how we felt about it as individual selectmen members or as a board.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Ebersol.
I know that the current administration, the superintendent of school, does have an anti-bullying program in place now, and my only concern is that to make sure that this would be consistent with that I would see that this, while it might be a good thing to do, I don't have an opinion on it because I don't know what the specific texts of the education would be, and I would recommend that, I'd be fine with us having a statement saying that we, ask the school committee to seriously consider it, but I'm not ready to
vote in favor of it or against it, because I don't know what I like the message, the way of the title is, but I don't know what the text of it is and
Sure.
how it relates to the existing curriculum.
Yeah, and I don't think we're looking for a vote, obviously. I think we're looking for, exactly what you just offered, Mr. Ebersol, just our opinions about how we feel about what is being proposed. Obviously, I think you are 100% correct in that the school committee would evaluate, does it fit in with the policies and the programs that they already have in place? Does it send the same and reinforcing messages to the messaging they already are using? On its face, when I read this, I thought it was important, and I think could be very useful for several reasons. Not only because of the message, but because it is intending to be student-driven as opposed to adult-driven. But obviously, we want to make sure that beforehand they'll want to know what the content is going to be clearly. But I think that sends a good message. And I think it's encouraging, again, that somebody from our community would propose this in any regard, and that it comes from a student who seemingly seems to do this at other locations, according to the letter, is even more reassuring. So I would be one to agree with your comments and at least informally suggest the school committee really take this seriously and really consider it to see if it fits in and can be done.
And I would concur. This is a very well-written letter. Obviously, this individual has experience in these matters, but ultimately, it is the decision of the school committee and the school administration. But I certainly, on its face, am supportive of this effort.
As I am as well.
Okay. So with the board's okay, I will contact the chair of the school committee and say that we have informally talked about this and that we encourage them to take this up. Obviously, they have lots on their plate, but I would like them to at least consider this, especially since it's timely given the date. Maybe they can have it at a different date. So I will bring that unless there's an objection from the board. And hearing none, I will contact the chair of the school committee.
Mr. Chairman, under action file issues,
Mrs. Bertram.
I did just want to say I happened to attend a meeting of the Open Space Committee last week, and one of the items that they talked about is guidelines that they have created for disposition of chapter land or for a criteria, which was something we were awaiting. And it's actually under our proposed policies under development. And so they apparently have sent that over. So if we could distribute that, they had indicated they had sent that over some time ago. Yeah, they said it was back in August, and I haven't seen it. So, and they actually read parts of it, at the meeting. So we certainly want to get that information. Additionally, they've voiced strong concern. What they focused on was strictly from an open space perspective, but obviously there is other criteria such as planning, proximity for economic development and other standards that planning board would look at, as well as other standards that conservation would look at. So they looked at it strictly from an open space standpoint, and they actually have done a phenomenal job of determining what criteria to look at when evaluating land. And basically, they have said that if a piece of land meets at least 3 of that criteria, the recommendation would be to bring it to the town for a vote. But they strongly recommended that we seek input from the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission and any other relative department that we felt was appropriate to have them go through that same exercise. And then taking all of that information together and then thereby establishing a robust criteria by which to evaluate land. So if we could get that information from them and then put that forward on a future agenda.
Mr. Chairman, which committee met with us? Was it the open space?
It was. And about
what? I mean, we met with
chapter land.
So I was wondering what committee it was, because one of the things that came out of that is that they had not recommended specific guidelines because they didn't want to necessarily
tip the hand for a future person wanting to get more money as a result, so.
No, not for specific pieces of property.
No,
What-
right. There's a
it's-
difference
this
between
is-
guidelines that we're okay with. They promoted that we had asked them to identify properties.
I see, okay.
And then
And they were
they
not.
came back to us saying, we feel that it's not a good idea to determine or predetermine properties we're interested in, but criteria that we're interested in.
Thank you.
Right.
Any other action file issues? Okay, committee reports, Board of Health.
Board of Health met last night, and as I talked before, anything around a lake with a small lot is always a challenge for Title V properties, and if you've got an existing house, you're going to end up having waivers, or otherwise you end up having tear down houses. So they're constantly balancing the things, and they seem to be a pretty good job of that. They voted to allow Dippin' Donuts on Mass Ave to now have the standing counter with 4 stools. They had not allowed it initially because of their concern of the volume of water that may go into the septic system, which is based on the size of that septic system. They've actually tracked the water usage since they opened, and the interesting comment is that a lot of the water goes out of the building in coffee cups, cup by cup by cup, so therefore it's not going into the septic system. And the concern would be is that if you actually have a restaurant, it may start going to the septic system because people would use restrooms. So they have allowed them to do it up to probably going to be 3 to 4 quarters. They're going to review it again in a year to make sure that the usage of the water hasn't gone up. They've had an internal meter on the coffee maker. Nobody has, except for the town, have sewer meters at this point, but this seems to be a good way to deal with it because there is no town sewer on that portion of the street. They reviewed DEP report on the Woodlands. Apparently they had some issues with the running of that, the rock sewer treatment plant down there that's being resolved, and apparently they've handled the issues. And one last thing that they have, there are some systems in town that are called, that are grandfathered, multiple houses on one septic system, and the one that they were dealing with, it's passed inspection, so it's fine, but they wanted to communicate with the people that are, the property was being sold, and the people that are connected to it that are not on that property, that they need to be aware of their responsibilities of having it pumped every 3 years and inspected. So they don't have any jurisdiction until such time as it fails. It was, my understanding is that they thought that when that was put in, it was planned to be connected to the regional treatment area there in the Woodlands, but didn't due to various changes in plans. So they've gone the full range of a very short meeting, but they covered a lot of topics last night.
Thank you. Building Reuse Committee.
We met last night, and we're wrapping up our deliberations. We are ready to make recommendations, just putting it together in a presentation form, and we'd like to request to be on the agenda of the Board of Selectmen on December 3rd to present to this group, if that's possible.
Is that possible? I'm asking, I don't have the proposed agenda for that day in front of me. That's what I'm asking.
And I can rephrase that to as soon as possible, but we felt it was important.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I was gonna ask that, because we're getting down to it. I'm like, okay, so when do you?
Right.
Maybe it'd be a holiday gift that you'll give to everybody, a little pamphlet about what they're recommending. Capital Planning Committee.
Meets tomorrow morning. All the requests from the various town departments are in, and we start our prioritization work tomorrow with the objective to be finished and presenting to the town manager by the 18th of December.
Finance Committee.
I was unable to make their meeting, but checked in with them and told that the majority of that time was a continuation of their working on their policy updates.
Okay. Library Board of Trustees.
Meets tomorrow night.
MPO, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Thursday.
MPO?
The meeting on November 13th, the majority of the meeting focused on a demonstration of the new and improved Mr. Mapper program that MRPC has available. But there was a lot of really great information, and I would recommend that we have the DPW director get in touch with the GIS staff over there. There's a lot of tools that they've incorporated, which is to allow drawing and calculations and a lot of work that can be done on their site and saved locally and exported easily to various formats. Additionally, they've updated the crash data on their site, as well as they've identified all of the federal aid eligible roads over the last year. They've gone through and identified all of the pavement conditions, and that's now available online. And during that discussion, I had asked if they've done that for all of the roads. They've done it for all of the federal aid eligible roadways. However, George Kahali of MRPC did indicate that for a very minimal fee, they would be willing to do update all of the pavement management for the entire town. So it may be something, I know that's something the DPW director had brought forth, is that in moving forward with this new software that we were going to have to update those pavement conditions. So it may be something we want to investigate, but at a minimum, the 24 or 25 federal aid eligible roadways, they can send us that data. And they're unveiling some new mobile apps that's going to be able to be used with this software, and they're targeted specifically towards DPWs. So it's something we really want to pursue and get educated about. And they seem more than amenable to coming out and doing some training. So if we could move forward with that. Unfortunately, I had to leave the meeting early because of another commitment, but the majority of the meeting focused on that.
Thank you. Planning Board.
They have not met. They attended a training session on the 14th.
PAC.
PAC had to be rescheduled. They had a quorum issue. I don't know what the date is yet.
Okay. School Committee, Dave is not here, but just to remind everybody that the School Committee is meeting tomorrow at Passios? At Passios at, I believe it's 7 p.m. School Building Committee, Dave is not here.
Can I just mention the School Building Committee's meeting on Thursday evening? Tomorrow, the superintendent, the chair of the School Building Committee, myself, and our architect in OPM will be going to an MSBA meeting where the MSBA will be finalizing the budget on the project. So that's a key meeting. And the results of that meeting will be reported at the School Building Committee meeting on Thursday at 7 at Passios.
Thank you. Sewer Commission.
Sewer Commission, the most important item to note is that the sewer line on Lancaster Ave that was privately funded by the Lancaster Ave Residents Group was formally accepted by the DPW Director and the Sewer Commission. So the project is complete.
Excellent. And the Mass Broadband, we had a conference call with the member towns today, one of two. They always have two for people who can't make the first one. And it basically tracked the, as we near the close of the initial project, which is scheduled to be the end of December. And they're still on track. It's, as the person said, I think their comment was it's not a shoe-in, but they are still right on schedule as we get to that. At the end of that, the whole backbone will be lit and everything will be active, and then they will go and they will be meeting. They have already been meeting town by town in the areas that have already been active or are closer to being active. They met with those towns. We're near the end because we were already served, so they're trying to do the least served towns first and come forward. And some of it had to do with geography of running the fiber strands. But when they get to us, they'll have a meeting about, with the, myself as the representative, community representative, with the IT director, with the town manager, about all the anchor institutions in town and about what the steps needed to be done to connect those to the fiber connection. And then we'll be able to get a virtual private network to our own buildings, of course. That will probably be done internally, but the equipment will be coming from them. But we need to deal with the service provider of the projects to get that lit and online. That will be the next step after the turn of the year. And then they're working on funding. The governor has proposed, and it has already been taken up, I think today or tomorrow, by the House Ways and Means, the secondary funding of what's called the last mile. That means everybody's question now is, as I've been saying, is, okay, once it's here and the community anchor institutions are connected, how do businesses and residences get connected? So we have a fiber strand going through, a backbone going through, but still it doesn't hook up to people's houses. And so there's a bond bill before them to cover not all, but most of it. And they, like they did the first round of the part of the project that are about being completed, they'll try to leverage that against federal money to get the full amount, which is probably going to be, it was estimated somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 million, to do the last mile, which is to redistribute from the backbone to the communities out to the town. They're also going to talk to us about what we're looking for, the member communities, or the affected communities. And I suggested to them, as other community representatives did, that we're all looking for, I think, the same answer. Like, how can the towns be involved? Are there going to be third-party service providers that can be involved? Is this last mile project that will still to be bonded if it's going to be passed by the State House? How does that all work in? But basically, people want to know, now that it's running here, beside the town buildings, how do we get connected? So that'll be at the close of this project, that will be the beginning of that stage. It's already in the planning stage, but they don't have the funding yet. So I will keep you posted.
Is the last mile kind of going to be your standard ISPs that everybody's aware of, your Comcast and Verizon's, or is it a whole different group of providers?
Well, the last mile is a designation, means how do you get from the backbone to your house? Now, who will be providing that is part of the solution, right? The state is obviously not going to run that. In fact, they're not even running the backbone. It was a bidding process, and a company called Axia is actually going to be taking over this when it's all done. They've already taken over parts of it that are already lit near Springfield and Spurs off Springfield. So the last mile is just that designation. Now, who runs that is open. There are criteria that Axia and the Mass Broadband Institute and the state have employed to get people to apply if they are interested in providing that service. The question was asked today, how do the major carriers feel about this going through communities that have it? So we're one of the communities that have a major provider, right? Comcast, and a lot of other places have either places like Time Warner or Verizon, et cetera, like that. But a lot of the communities have nobody. Some places don't have anything but dial-up. They don't even have DSL.
Right.
So that, and they don't have cable because of it being in the Berkshires and geographic concerns and topographic concerns. But the answer was that they're trying to keep an open discussion with the major providers. I don't know that they'll use this, but they don't want to feel like they're in competition with them necessarily either. They're trying to serve non-served or underserved communities. That's what the original plan was. Communities like ours that are in the middle, not everybody has Comcast abilities, and Fios, is only on tip corners of the community as it passes by Leominster and Fitchburg. We're one of those people that I want a hybrid solution. So that's what they're working on.
Okay, thank you.
Is Devon's covered within?
Devon is not part of it. We're like the easternmost part.
Oh, easternmost, okay.
Yeah, we're like the easternmost edge, and it kind of went through us, and, I think it went through parts of Fitchburg. I don't know if it went through Leominster, but I believe it did too. But everything east of there, I don't think was in it. Town manager reports.
I don't have anything.
Okay, no appointments, reappointments, no executive session, no meeting next week. Our next meeting is Tuesday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. here. Are there any final public comment from the board? I will say, since we have no meeting next week, that I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Given the times and the situations that we're in Lunenburg, I really hope that we can redefine what we are thankful for in our community, and there is plenty to be thankful for in our community. And that those things that don't fit that we work, all of us together, to correct them and to do to the best of our ability, make sure and ensure that everybody here is well respected and well protected. Any public comment from the public? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you and good night, everyone.